Hey guys, your friendly neighborhood natty here. My name is Matthew, and today's video is going to be some advice I'd like to impart to you as someone who's entering their mid-30s. So I just recently had a birthday and I am now officially 35 years old. Halfway point of mid-30s. Wow. Good times, good times. Most people, they tend to think that their 20s is for hedonism and then their 30s is to figure stuff out. Um, in my case, my dad kept me on a very good, straight and narrow path. I never engaged in hedonism. I just stayed on setting up my life. So I would just like to give you my perspective, experience on that. If you still want to go the hedonism route, or maybe you'll learn something here and you can forge a new path for yourself. So the first thing I want to talk about is college. That is the number one thing that most kids are pushed towards right away after high school. There's too much stigmatization from parents, teachers, and friends that, there's no future if you don't go. And that is very unfortunate. In my case, personally, I can say that I absolutely should not have gone to college right away after 18. I think probably if I could go back in time, I would have waited till I was 28. Because by 28, my brain was like fully developing. It was kind of like, we need to get everything in order. Before that, I was okay with just coasting by and then, not caring about where I was. Like everything was enough. By 28, it was like, no, this isn't enough. This isn't where I want to be, and I want to make my future a lot better than it could be. So some people are going to be like that. Some people do figure it out at 18. That's great if that's you. But I think a lot of people don't. And for that, I think that they can feel very lost, and of course peer pressure into making decisions they normally wouldn't do without much further consideration. So with college, I think you've really only got two choices, right? Either you can go right away or you cannot. And in regards to going right away, if you know exactly what you want, which is very rare, that's fine. Go ahead. In some cases, some parents, they have a weird way of thinking where it's like their kid has to go to college, otherwise they'll kick them out. I've never seen it, but I guess I've heard about it. So in that case, I actually recommend you go into HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, or you go into electrician. Those are very safe jobs that easily make six figures and more if you study into it and you work on it. So in 10 years, you'll be a millionaire. And then if you find out you really wanted something else, you're sitting on $1 million, you can go do it, okay? Now, in the case that you don't know and you're not sure, you don't want to go yet, that's okay too. But you have to make a covenant with your parents, okay? Because you can't just sit at home and not do anything. That's not fair to them, and it's also not fair to you in your future. So the first is that you're going to get a full-time job, not part-time. You're going to pay half the bills, mortgage and utilities, so electric, water, internet, gas, stuff like that. You're also not allowed to drink alcohol or smoke or do any drugs, because again, like that's not helping your future, and that's not being very honorable to your parents allowing you to stay to figure out your future, right? I don't think alcohol and cigarettes are going to help you figure out your future, okay? And as far as, well, my money's going into the, the mortgage and the utilities, well, yeah, you're living there for free. Well, not free. You're living there though, you know what I mean? And you're trying to build your discipline to kind of motivate you to figure out what you want, not in a rushing way, but just taking your time, And it wouldn't be a bad idea too to kind of learn how to handle your finances, even though we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, the second one I want to talk about is dopamine. So I want you to down-regulate your dopamine. Most people today, my generation and yours, probably yours a little more if you're younger than me, your dopamine is incredibly upregulated. And what that means is that, it's at a very high level. It's a high baseline. And what that means is that you probably display levels of anhedonia, which is just no pleasure for anything in life. Nothing, things that used to be exciting to you were not exciting to you anymore. And it's really having to do with dopamine, which is it's a seeking hormone. It's supposed to make you seek out the next thing, motivate you essentially. And our body has a unique expression to dopamine. It has a unique reaction to dopamine. So when something gives you pleasure, whether it's food or martial arts, whatever, you get a shot of dopamine. right? So it makes you motivated to be like, oh, I should practice more martial arts, right? Or you should run more if you like running. That's how it's supposed to work evolutionary wise, and it probably worked pretty well. Nowadays, we seem to have come across some kind of biohack where we're able to engage in vices that artificially increase the dopamine way more than in nature than is possible. And what happens is that makes that your new baseline, so that everything under that no longer is exciting to you. And without that motivation, it's going to be very difficult to pass high school. And the number one indicator of success in life is passing high school. So, I suggest that you guys really control your dopamine, try to downregulate it as much as you can. Another one too is that I know with you kids, I know that sexuality is insanely expressed nowadays. I don't know if this is true or not, but people talking about, I classify it as sexuality, but talking about different genders, which there aren't, they're only male and female. Let me explain that. So in neuroscience, which is a settled science, every brain is a female brain, every brain's a female brain. And what happens is that when your body reads your DNA code and it says XX, which is for woman, nothing happens. The brain just fully develops. They look like a girl, act like a girl, they have girl parts, right? Now, if the body reads the DNA and it reads XY, right? So like me, then what happens is that my brain's flooded with testosterone, makes me look like a man, act like a man, think like a man, have man parts, right? There has never been any other scenario, never, in the history of the universe, right? It's only girl, guy, that's it. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean when I say that. I am not a science denier. That's the science, okay? So, what was I talking about? Oh, sexuality. So they're talking about different genders, different sexualities to kids in I assume kindergarten, right? And these kids don't know a damn thing, When I was your age, they would have called that person a sex offender and throw him in jail, But now I guess, that's what they do now, And I understand that your generation can be a lot more sexually active than mine was, If you've been around long enough, I'm a 35-year-old virgin. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Maybe it's from Bible school, but sex is sacred. It's not something that you toy around with or throw away or treat as useless, especially when you look at oxytocin, which has differing effects on the man and the woman, probably because of Mother Nature. So basically, oxytocin makes the woman more bonded to the guy. So if the girl sleeps with 100 guys, well, she's going to be hella confused, isn't she? Now for a guy, I don't know why, but it seems like the oxytocin makes us, it bonds to you, but not as much. You know what I mean? I think it's because Mother Nature wants more kids. So if the guy's bonded to the girl, well then how's there more kids, right? So she must have designed it to where okay, yeah, have sex and then go have sex with somebody else, or get somebody else pregnant. But anyways, that's how that works, right? And so I understand you're probably more sexually active than I am. And I'm just saying to you, well, keep in mind that sex is a 200% over dopamine baseline. So that's over twice, 100%. And it's probably not a good idea. It's just not a good idea. It's pretty easy I would say I had a porn addiction for sure. 6 out of 7 days. I don't know what the number is now. I'm sure some people are 7 out of 7, but you will be governed by the vice, right? You'll be governed by it. Nothing else matters. That's the most important thing. And so if you can knock that off now, that'd be great. Have the dopamine come back to normal. Finish high school. If you're ready for college, go to college. If not, then that's fine. Do full-time. Do full-time work. Heck, you can probably even do full-time and part-time. That's what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to do full-time and part-time. I replied to Shields 3 times. 3 times, you guys. The first time was kind of okay, I didn't have a career, so I can understand the rejection. Second time, I did have a career, so I don't understand that rejection, and I just put in another one now. So, with more motivation, you could work more than 40 hours a week. You might work 53 hours a week and run a YouTube channel. I don't know. I think the dopamine is really important. It's a really important thing to kind of protect govern, and kind of keep it at a good baseline so that you can use it for tasks that are the most important, you know. And for you young, you guys and girls out there, yes, for the guys, that means no porn and masturbation. Yes, for the girls, that's no porn and masturbation or meaningless sex with Chad. Okay, no, you're. I think you're setting yourself up for failure for that. I understand you're your own person, fine, but well, I warned you. I warned you. Okay. Okay. So number 3. This next advice is going to be about meditation, but I like to call it boredom training. So Big Brother Natty can meditate. I can't. It's very difficult for me. I fall asleep. I also fall asleep when I don't have anything to do, like work. So I think it's just a narcolepsy problem. I don't know. But the thing about meditation is that, it kind of, I think it's supposed to make you more creative, because Big Brother Natty's been like working on painting minifigures, for like board games and stuff, and he's really good at it actually. And he was the one that was like, yeah, I should try to meditate. And I was like, okay. And it didn't work for me. So I tried to look for a different method. I look online, and people are saying that boredom can kind of do the exact same thing, although obviously it's, a different shade. With boredom, what's happening is that you can be more creative, because when the brain has no stimuli, then it kind of like has some inward thinking. It's like, well, where are we? What are we doing? How are we doing? It just kind of makes you put things into perspective. Like, you're not distracted. You know what I mean? Recently, for me at least, with YouTube, the hardest ones are videos like this, or videos where I have to kind of like talk and do things like that. It's very hard for me to get behind the camera and do that. I don't know if it's an anxiety thing, but I really don't like to do that. I like the gaming ones because it's challenging, because you have to line up the video game's audio and the camera's audio, because it's not the same. What happens is that the game recording loads faster in loading screens, so then it's ahead. Then you have to re-coordinate it with the video, with this one. I like that challenge. It's very challenging. It easily makes a 2-hour video like 6-hour editing. But I like that challenge. But it's also easy because I don't have to, talk to you in front of a camera type of a thing. This one's really hard because I have the outline. I wrote everything down. I wrote it 2 weeks in advance, but it's like, it's a whole different kind of a thing, But I find that when I'm bored, right? Like when I'm so bored, so it's like I can do something. I can clean my room, I can do my dishes, which I already do actually, but I can do something else, but I choose not to. I just choose to literally be bored and to lay down and not do anything. Then I find doing videos like this is actually very easy, because I think when the brain is just so damn bored, like even the thing you don't want to do is much better. And there was a study too where they showed that if they had a choice, so they had to sit in a room and be bored, not do anything, or they could press the button that shocked themselves. Like 90% of the people shock themselves. So people would really rather not be bored. So I would say if you can meditate, do that. Otherwise, if you can't, like me, I find the boredom training to basically do the exact same thing, or at least motivate me to do the things that I don't want to do, like film this video. The next piece of advice is that I want you guys to eliminate alcohol, nicotine, drugs, all of that stuff. A lot of people rely on that as vices. Those things do increase your dopamine, so we know that this is nothing more than just people running away from their problems and elevating their dopamine. So of course it's circular, and then they need their drug because they got used to that baseline. It's better not to start at all. I will say that of the few times I drank, yeah, you're more open, you're more social, but I'd also say that's not really you. I have a friend who says alcohol reveals who you are. No, I don't think it does. I don't think it does, because when I got really drunk, I was a physical assaulter. I drove drunk, and how do I say it? sexual harasser. So that's who I am. That's who I am only when I drink alcohol. I'm a physical assaulter, a sexual harasser, and a drunk driver. No, I know damn well that's not who I am. I think the alcohol makes you who you aren't supposed to be. Now let me make it clear here. When I say physical assault here, I'm not like using my martial arts. Like apparently I pushed somebody, but I don't remember doing it. And then I guess I was like, I touched a girl. Oh, hold on, hold on. It doesn't sound that bad. I guess like I accidentally touched a girl with my arm or something, and I didn't notice it. Okay. And then the last one, I did try to drive drunk. So yes, it's not as bad as it sounds. But no, I don't think that alcohol reveals who you are. That's clearly not who I am. And if it only happens when I'm drunk, then clearly that means the alcohol and the drug did it. No, that's not who I really am by heart, mind, body, and spirit. Now with the nicotine, it's kind of the same thing. Now there are options, and people can agree to disagree. Big Brother Natty thinks that vaping and patches don't help at all. I think they do help, but well, here's the thing. So the thing with vaping is that you get away from the tar and the junk in the cigarette, right? But then the vape hasn't been long enough for us to say, well, there are problems with the lungs and breathing. And I have coworkers that have said, yeah, there seem to be something with that because you're inhaling like the metals and stuff like that. And then the patch, right? Which I mean, I haven't studied it, but I think that's kind of the best one. I think it looks pretty good. There's no tar from the cigarette. There's no toxic metals you're inhaling, and then it's just a patch. You know what I mean? And then of course with these things, you have to use the weaning method, tapering off method, which I've talked about in some video from ages ago. But there's two ways. There's cold turkey and there's tapering method. In this case with the nicotine patch, obviously you want the tapering method. So I'm assuming they give you certain milligrams of nicotine per patch, right? So if you're used to the 75 milligrams, all right, be on that for like a month. The next month you're dropping down to 50 milligrams, again 1 month. And I did that with caffeine to the point where I don't drink caffeine at all. So that's something where these vices, they don't do anything for you at all. It's just a waste of money. By the way, cigarettes and vaping, I think they're actually class 1 carcinogens. These are cancer-causing agents. I don't think anybody can convince you that having cancer is a good thing. It's a very good indicator of cancer. It's really expensive. This is stuff that's really adding nothing to you. And of course, by using up your dopamine, you don't have any motivation. You don't finish high school, and then you don't have a very good future. So might be a good idea to eliminate those immediately. And I know some friends and family will try to be like, there's a healthy balance. No, only I'm right here. There's the healthy balance is 0. 0 tolerance. Okay, number 5. Well, number 5 really is about strengthening your joints, tendons, and ligaments. Now I know some people will say go to the gym, and that is true, but with exercise you kind of have 2 major categories. You have the hypertrophy, which is like the muscle size. Let's get some light shading up in here. Wait. Let me bring out the other one. Boom. Boom. Yeah. So the muscle size is the hypertrophy. Dang, I can't get some good shade, guys. You can't get the hypertrophy is the muscle size. Okay, that's it. And then strength training is different. So this is where, your joints, your tendons, your ligaments come in. This is stuff that's very important for martial arts, very important for gymnasts, sprinters, any kind of performance athletic art. The joints, tendons, and ligaments are very important. They're also very hard to train because, the reason muscle grows, hold on, let me see if I can get that. The reason why muscle grows up so fast is because it gets blood circulation very easy, so the muscle can grow pretty quick. The joint, tendons, and ligaments is very hard to get blood to rush in there, to have them grow and to strengthen, and they also have a very long investment time. You gotta train for a long time in order to see, considerable growth in those areas. I think only gymnasts and Shaolin monks are probably the only ones that have the best joints, tendons, and ligaments, And the training for that is, it's not too much different than, bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is fine, but, to target those areas specifically, you're looking at like athletic performances, so something within plyometrics would be a good example. You can have, kind of the light plyometric, the box jumps, mid. There's really high plyometrics, any kind of like falling catch. I've talked about that before. A lot of health issues stem from joints, tendons, and ligaments as well. A lot of people can tend to be deficient in care like that. And, it's almost kind of like being a kid again. You know, you really kind of want to be able to jump around and move around. I remember we had these stairs in middle school. So we had you go downstairs to go to the lunchroom, right? And we had two lines. You had like the line 1, line 2. And these stairs were like, I don't know, maybe like 10, 12 steps, right? So you could just walk down the steps fast. I would literally just jump all the way down. I would just jump all the way down to like the 12 steps, turn around, jump again, down to 12 steps again. And that was nothing. That was nothing. I did that like a kid and it was like a joke, you know? I don't know if I could do that today, but back then, you know, it's like, that's the kind of strength, springiness you want to have in your joints, tendons, and ligaments. They do have the potential for higher strength output. So when you see gymnasts do like a planche or any kind of excellent martial artist, punching power, kicking power, they do have the potential to have more power output. They just take too damn long to train. Oh yes, you can't really start this right away. The reason why is because plyometrics are very heavy on the body. They're very heavy on the body, a lot of tension, a lot of stress. And if you're overweight, I was overweight once too, okay, we all were there. You know, that's a lot of extra stress on the joints, tendons, and ligaments. Another thing too is that if you damage them to a degree, they're unhealable. You know, so you don't want to go too far because, you know, it can't come back. So this goes back to that long investment time. You got to be very, very careful with it, you know. And smoking increases joint pain and possibly rheumatoid arthritis. So stop smoking. Vitamin D and calcium are good for the bone and joint health. People are typically deficient in those. Collagen and vitamin C have a good effect, synergistic effect for joint, tendon, ligament repair. Omega-3 decreases inflammation. Nice. Good stuff, huh? Okay, let's go to number 6. Number 6 is that you're the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. And the people I hang around the most are no longer my friends. Well, let me explain that. So, you know, my friends used to go to the bars all the time, every weekend, always bars, bar hopping, a lot of alcohol, all this stuff. And I tried 2 or 3 times, but I mean, it was the most depressing thing, like on my soul, you know, like it just wasn't the place for me. I don't know what they found fun in there, but you know, that was what they did. So eventually, with that being the only thing they ever did, hey, do you want to go to the bars? I started saying no. No, I don't want to go to the bar, you know. I could work on YouTube. I could grab extra hours from work. I could practice martial arts, but no, no thank you. I don't want to go to the bar, you know. So eventually, after a couple of no's, they don't ask anymore. They don't ask anymore. They never asked, and it's been months. You know what I mean? So the only people I really hang around is mostly my coworkers. So, you know, people are sick. We have coworkers, take each other's clients, stuff like that. That's the only people I hang around. And then I also hang around with my family too. So Papa Natty, Big Brother Natty, Little Brother Natty, stuff like that. Nobody drinks. Nobody smokes. Nobody does drugs. So pretty good people to hang around. And again, you know, good values too, I would say, because, you know, Papa Natty, he's kind of like me and Big Brother Natty, where like we care about work too much. You know, Papa Natty wakes up, he works in slaughterhouse, hog slaughterhouse. So he's always sharpening his tools, getting everything ready, preparing, you know. It's no different than I, you know, go to work half an hour early, 45 minutes early, prepare everything. Who do I see? Which medicine, who gets what medicine, how much medicine, stuff like that. You know, we're kind of like all the exact same way. Good people to hang around, right? Good attributes to borrow from. And then, you know, Little Brother Natty, he's really gotten into the fitness thing. He just started getting into the fitness thing, and, you know, I think with comparison-wise, I excelled past him with like the actual exercise and training, but he excels in the diet. Like he's actually understanding the micros, the macros, all this stuff. He's understands the protein content for lentils, carbs, all this stuff. So he's like way past me there. I only beat him with exercise, probably because I was in martial arts for a long time. But honestly, it's kind of inspiring, and we always pass each other ideas like, oh, what are you eating? Oh, should I eat this? And then he'll be like, what exercise are you doing? And I'm doing this, and oh, should he do that? Again, you're being around people that have good habits, and you're absorbing those habits, you're learning from each other, you're getting something useful. You know what I mean? I imagine it's the same with people that like drink a lot, right? They're gonna be like, oh, what's another good alcohol? You know what I mean? I don't mean to insult anybody. I'm just saying, like, you see the similarity. It's like, how do I get more of the same thing that I'm used to, right? But if what you're used to is good habits like work and exercise and diet, then it's only gonna get better, right? So you want to stay around people that are similar to you, motivated, driven, successful people, not alcoholics, people with low motivation, damaging vices, right? You don't want that kind of stuff. And another thing too for safety is that I was the DD driver for my friends, so I'm the non-drunkard, but everyone else is drunk. You need to be careful with that. I didn't realize the danger at first, but like I've been watching some Cops, the show Cops, and in a lot of those cases, when there's open containers and things like that, or even drugs, illegal drugs, controlled substances, they will go after the driver, like the DD driver. They'll actually go after them. Now whether that's a bad cop or a good cop, I don't know. But the fact is, they can go after you for that. They can say you're the responsible one, even if it wasn't your drug, even if it wasn't your alcohol. So you might want to think about, do you want to be around people that can bring criminal charges against you, right? That's not useful. Do I have to worry about criminal charges with Papa Natty? No. Do I have to worry about that with Big Brother Natty? No. You see what I'm saying? So you want to be friends with these people, you better think carefully what kind of problems they can bring to you if you're the DD, if you're the designated driver, right? I wrote it down. I think it's you're responsible for all open alcohol containers in your vehicle and any drug paraphernalia. So even if they're not yours, you're still responsible for it if you're the driver. Okay? So you don't want to be their designated driver. Let's see. So drug possession is two things: actual and constructive. Actual, you use the drug, obviously not you. But constructive is when the drugs don't belong to you, but they still get a $1,000 fine and a year in jail. If they can prove you're using it for distribution, you're looking at 9 years in jail, $20,000 fine. Open containers in South Dakota by driver and passenger is illegal. You get a misdemeanor, $500 fine, and 30 days in jail. Unless you like paying fines and spending nights in jail, don't hang around with those kinds of people. The next piece of advice is very general. I picked it up in my days in the dojo. So basically it's that there's no strength without struggle. Discipline, right? We don't think of pain as like, I need to run away from this. We think of pain as like, I need to conquer this. And then how do I make it more difficult, right? So I've been reading a lot of books to kind of revamp my exercise program. Isoplex and Plyoflex by Mark de Bremacher, who's an excellent martial artist, by the way. Very old school, it reminds me of my master. I've been taking a lot of exercise and I kind of go through the book, right? So I go through the book and like, here are some exercises, I look at them and I can tell like, this is inappropriate for me. Like it's not hard enough for me, right? Other times I'll be like, I've never seen this before, I want to try it. And then I can beat it and be like, oh, well, next one, right? Because it's not challenging enough, I gotta go to the next one. Some of them was really hard and I was like, wow, I can't do this. I'm gonna keep doing this, right? That's the way that martial artists think. Death to us is not physical death. It's by not having a challenge, right? If there's no other challenge to conquer, to perfect, to master, that's like being dead to us. Like we might as well be dead, there's nothing to do. So if you can understand that without being in the dojo for decades, I think that'd be a very good lesson for you to have. You don't want to resort or create an easy life. And I know it's very hard today with today's technology. Everything is geared towards an easy life, but if you can kind of resist that, make your life difficult, because we're an adaptive machine. We adapt to things. If you adapt to comfort, you're gonna be weak. If you adapt to difficulty, you're gonna be pretty strong. So try to find a challenge, increase your force of will. That's only going to make your life more manageable. in high school, college, everything after that. It's really a lesson that permeates through all aspects of life. All right, the next piece of advice I want to talk about is finances. I'm sure that this is something that I did not want to talk about when I was your age, but it is pretty important. Finances. So number one, just a quick tip is that you really don't want to trust friends with money. A very bad experiences with that. I remember when I was working at McDonald's, gotta work at McDonald's when I was a kid, right? And somebody needed $20, and I was like, okay, here you go. He's like, I'll pay you back. And it took him like months to pay me back, and he didn't even want to pay me back. He wanted to give me gift cards, and I was like, no. It's been months. You can't pay $20. Obviously, I didn't know too much about this person, but I'm guessing he's probably engaging in bad vices. That's why he just never had money. So a lesson I should have learned. Okay. Another friend, I think he still owes me $7,000. Yes, he does. $7,000 I think it was for like double rent and other bills, stuff like that. He's never paid a penny to his debt. But it wasn't good. Let's put it there. It wasn't good. Okay. I don't know if he's ever gonna pay it back. He might not. If he does, that's fine. But I don't know if I can trust him again. But if he doesn't, then that's gonna be a $7,000 lesson. And I would like you not to have your own $7,000 lesson. So I think it's just a good idea. Just don't loan to friends in general. Now the next one, kind of building off of that, is building your credit. Building your credit is pretty important. Very hard to do when you're young though. I remember working for a credit card company, a pretty big brand name, and we specifically don't issue credit cards to newbies. So if you're like 18, I think you can own a credit card at 18. We actually said no to you right away. And it's not, well, yeah, it's because you don't have a history of credit, but you can see that how difficult it would be to build credit if people are denying you credit because you don't have a record. You know what I mean? Now I think there used to be a website, it might be defunct, but there was a website like creditcards.com or something, and it gave you a list of credit cards that did issue to first-time lenders. That's what we call them. First-time lenders is people that don't have a credit history. And with that, you can build your credit. And I'm not 100% sure, I'd study this, but I think your credit is building even if you don't pay the APR. And I highly suggest you don't pay the APR because they're like 24% nowadays. Okay, that's insane. Half, 25%. So like you buy a candy bar at $10 and next time it's, okay, it's not a good example. But if you buy something that's $200 and then next month plus 25%, geez, that's insane, right? What is that, 250? Now, of course, it depends on what the brand is. I have a Shields credit card, and I remember one time I was curious. I wanted to be like, how much more does it do? Even though I could have just calculated it. Anyways, it was insane. You couldn't catch up. You couldn't beat it at all. Like, I tested it out, and I was like, oh, you actually can't ever break this down ever again. So I had to go into my savings and knock them out. But it was just an experiment. I'd be like, yeah, don't ever pay the APR per month. That's insane. It's too high. But I think your credit still builds even if you don't pay the APR. So let's say that what I've been doing with Shields is that so there's kind of a month where they late update or something. They don't update it. So they'll say next month $0 is due. Oh yeah, I think I can pay that. So then I just use it, and then by the time it goes to the next cycle and it says, okay, $40 is due minimum, I pay off the whole thing, which means I didn't pay anything. They didn't get anything in interest, And I think that Shields card, it started at, I got that in 2017. It started at, where's the damn number? Okay, I guess I didn't know what it started at. It might have started like at $1,000. Now it's at $7,400. Okay, it's 6 years, and now they extended it. I didn't ask for anything. They extended it to $7,400. Okay, now obviously you have to have a lot of discipline because some people might think that this is their money. No, it's not. It's their money that you can borrow, but you got to pay it off 100% before it's recalculated with interest. Okay. So if you can't handle that kind of thinking, then maybe don't get a credit card that high. But certainly you can get credit cards that are like $200 limit or something like that, just so you have a limiter on yourself so you don't go too far out there. But yeah, I think even if you don't pay their interest when they recalculate, I think your credit score still goes up. So that would be something that I think you could start on. Again, be very careful with that. Credit cards are pretty bad. I've seen people fall into it pretty bad. For me, it's just kind of, I don't know. I just had a very disciplined father, and so he makes sure I have that discipline too, Now, once you get into the workforce, there's one thing you should look into, which is 401k, or in my case, 403b. So 401k is kind of like individual for-profit businesses. That's your retirement fund. And for us, what I have is a 403b, which is kind of with a nonprofit organization. I think it's essentially the same thing, though. It's just that because I work for a nonprofit, it's not going to be the same as 401k. And the percent I started with my job was 5%. I just started at 5%. I don't know if I'll still be at my job in 2 months. Not in a bad way, but I've been doing very good. I think I'm just like everybody else. It took a year. I'm just as good as anyone else. I'm doing very well. Everything's organized. I like the job. I like my bosses. I like my workers. I like everything. So why wouldn't I stay? Well, I understand a nonprofit, but I don't think they're paying me well. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. If they got more funding, I'm sure they would pay me well. But I remember starting the job and the job offer, and it was, I would say, lower than the standard is what it was. But since it took me 10 years, to get my bachelor's, I accepted that. But after I mastered everything, I thought, okay, well, I mastered everything. So now I need to be paid what I'm supposed to be paid, So I'm going to look at, I think in 2 months, right? In 2 months, from when the video is filmed, I'm going to have to ask for a raise. Now, so here's the thing. We have to do 100 contacts in a month. I'm going to offer them 160. So I'll tell them, I'll give you 160 contacts a month. Everybody, if minimum is 100, I'll do 160 every month. And I want this much money. And I get the feeling they'll say no, but it's okay. They'll say no, and I'll be like, okay, and I'll just apply it someplace else. That's it. So I'm not leaving on bad terms or anything like that. It's just like, well, I like everything. I just don't like to pay. And, if we can make it work, we'll make it work. If we can't make it work, then, you'll have me until I can find another job. That's it. But, yeah, I thought that if I stayed, they'd never do this. If they accepted my offer, then I would increase my 403b to 10%. But I just started 5% as a start. Because, if you start a job, you don't know if you're going to be there for a year, So when they talk about 401k or 403b, just do 5%. And then if you like it and you're going to stay, then go ahead and go up to 10%. Now, as far as anything higher than that, well, if you consider that job a lifer, then sure, you can go higher. But those are kind of the 2% I would stay with, is just 5% if you don't know you're going to stay. If you're going to stay pretty well, then go ahead and jump to 10%. After that, that's up to you. You want to do more or less. So the mainstay skill of budgeting your finances is really going to be knowing your income and your expenses. Now, typically what I like to do is I like to round up my monthly expenses, bills, groceries, and I like to round down my income after taxes, which would be net income. So you subtract your expenses from your income. If the net profit is negative, you need to figure stuff out immediately, okay? Sit down and figure it out. Because you gotta stop the flow of net loss. You're losing money net, so you gotta stop that. If it's positive, then consider areas you could improve. So you'll probably hear people be like, "Oh, after all my expenses, I've only got $200." Well, typically, they are spending things that are unnecessary, right? So for me, mortgage necessary, electric, water, gas, internet, phone. These are all necessary, right? So then I calculate all that and I say, this is necessary, no question. So no question, this money is gone, 100%, right? After that, I'll look at things where, do I need something? So back when I was a kid, I didn't know anything, I ate out a lot. That adds up really quick. You're really paying for the convenience of food, like more than the worth of the food itself. You're really paying for that convenience. So that was cut out. the things that I like that aren't necessary, candy, sweets, stuff like that. It's not necessary. I miss them, but it's not necessary, right? And so I ended up coming up with about 1380. So 1380 is how much I lose every month, right? So there's the house bill, utilities, groceries, school loans. That's it. All 1380 gone, right? And I make on minimum, if I'm not working all the overtime I'd make 3,000 minimum a month, because we get paid once a month. Okay, so 3,000, I lose 1380, right? So I keep 1,700, 1620. That's mine, right? And that's really mine, because this 1620 is not all the expenses, it's really taken care of, right? So 1620, I mean, that's that's fine. I think I usually just put it in a savings account and forget about it. Sometimes for YouTube, if I'm like if there's a rebate going on, I will kind of move that $1,000 into it. So then $1,000 will go to 2,380. So 2,380, right? It's at 1,380, and then I try to keep the gun purchase as around $1,000 or less. Something like that. And again, the 3,000 is minimum. That's only if I didn't work any overtime, and honestly I am. So it's actually not that low. But worst case scenario, something happens and this is all you can get, then I know I'm still okay. So the number one skill really is budgeting your finances and just kind of doing it that way. That way that there's no surprises, type of a thing. And then of course for all the other things that people do, all their alcohol and nicotine and stuff like that, well, that's your fault. That's your fault, and and that's why you're poor, okay? Now, of course, you want to have a checking account and a savings account, but the savings account, it really depends. The rates are pretty bad. They've been bad for a while now, but just so that I know, some people, they have their wants and their needs and stuff like that. If you still want to do that, you want to get the stuff that you want, I highly suggest that you keep, I think it's double. So your net profit in your checking account has to be double your expenses. So 1,380 for me, right? Let's say I wanted this really cool gun. I want this really cool gun, and it costs $1,000. Okay, so my expenses are 1,380. So if my checking is 2,760, that's double. And then it's still 2,760 after I buy the gun, then I can buy it. That's the way I think of it, right? So if I want something, then double my expenses should be left in the checking account after I buy it. If it's not, I can't buy it, right? That's kind of the trick that I used. And then as time went on, it got unmanageable. So basically expenses were 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. And if you can keep it that high, that's great. That's even better. That's what you should be doing. And that's kind of the trick that I use to make sure that I get what I want, but then I also, have to discipline myself how much money has to be in a checking account. It's got to be double your expenses after you buy the thing that you want. In this case, a luxury, right? And the balance can never be under double your expenses. After that, I would look at keeping a flat amount, like $5,000, just for emergency funds. So if you can handle, or in my case, if I can handle the 2,760, then I'd be like, okay, well, I can handle that. And then if I don't want anything, obviously the money goes up, right? Maybe it hits 5,000. Okay, that's the new one now. Now I can't go under $5,000 in case of family emergency, right? For my parents or my brother. After 5,000, if you're getting past that, then I would look at opening a savings account and putting money in there. Now again, with the savings account, the rates differ. Usually online banks are going to have better savings accounts, just because that there's no physical branch to maintain, unless you really want that. If you really want a physical branch, then the savings accounts percent will be lower. If you don't mind doing it the whole online, which I do, I actually use an online bank. It's like 5% maybe savings account. Again, it'll be a little bit higher, but if you need the convenience of like a real person to talk to, besides on the phone, then yeah, you may look at a physical branch, but then you might be looking at like 4% savings account rate. And with that, I would look at trying to get $10,000 in the savings account. Once you're hit the 5,000, so your checking account is never under 5,000. Although I will say, if you do get 10,000 into it, $10,000 in the savings account, you can probably go back to double your expenses just because you have so much backup money, you know what I mean? And one thing too is that your savings account interest rate, the money you make from there, it is subject to income tax. So the government is going to take from it, you know? So just because you made $60 every month, well, the government also made money off you, so don't forget to pay your taxes. Okay, next we have point 13 is certified deposits. These are CDs that banks offer. Basically, it's money that you lock up for a certain amount of time, and it makes a certain percent of interest. It's usually higher than the savings, although the ones that I've seen are actually the same, or lower than mine. But again, mine's an online bank. So in my case, it would kind of be no point unless you could. You have clairvoyance and you can see in the future that the rates will drop, then I guess the CD would make more sense. And I will say that with the online bank, they did notify me of this. With mine, they said that they increased it to 5%. And so it kind of keeps me like, okay, well, if you can increase it out of the blue, then you can probably decrease it out of the blue too, you know? That's just their discretion. And I'm sure banks do that too. So just keep that in mind, is that if they decide to lower rates, they can do that. At least it seemed that way to me. But with the CD, they can't do that. If they said 5% at that time, even if the economy sucks, well, 7 months in, it's still 5%. So you'd have to be like a mind reader to know that, or kind of guess that things will be bad. And then let's see. Oh yes, you can calculate how much your savings account and your CD is making per month by dividing the percentage in decimal by 12, right? So let's say 3%, okay, so 0.03. You divide that by 12, that's 0.0025, 0.0025, so change the 0 to a 1 times the amount of money that you have, and then that will be your balance. So if you had $5,000 in a savings account, 3%, it's getting $12.50 per month, right? Oh yeah, CDs are FDIC insured, and they're part of the $250,000 limit per financial institution. So basically, if a bank is FDIC insured, and I highly suggest you get one that is, then if the bank fails, you still keep up to $250,000, $250,000. If it's not FDIC insured and you had $500,000 in there, well, $250,000 is gone, okay? And just letting you know that the CD is part of the $250,000. So you can't have $250,000 in your savings account and then $50,000 in CD. Like if it fails, you're going to lose $50,000, you know. And that's per bank institution. So, you know, if you were going to put like 500,000, 750,000, you would need like 3 or 4 different banks to put that money in for all your money to be FDIC insured. Now the last point, which is kind of a dream for me, is that you want to get your savings account balance where it'll pay your expenses every month. I think for me that would be $571,000, $571,200. That would be spread across 3 bank accounts because, you know, you got to protect every dollar there up to $250,000, and that's at 5%, and that's before taxes. So the government will still steal from me. But yes, if my expense is $1,380 per month, right? I need $571,200 for that to be handled. So basically, where my savings account pays off my monthly bills. Obviously, yours will be different. If your expense is higher, it'll be higher. If it's lower, it's lower. But that's kind of like the final dream, you know, like maybe when you're like 90 years old or something. I think that'd be pretty fun to have. So. Yes, that's all I had to say. Those are kind of things that came to mind for me. I thought about it for as much as I could, tried to organize it. My mind can be a little sporadic. I apologize, but you know, as somebody who's kind of walked the long and narrow path, that's kind of the points that I come across that I realized. I hope it helps you in some way or inspires you. Maybe you have some questions too. You know, I'm more than happy to learn from other people, you know. we only learn from one thing, that's ourselves, so if we can get more information, that'd be better. If you have any questions, you guys can always leave it in the comment section below. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, okay? Goodbye now.
You learned martial arts! Martial arts, go!